everyone, and thank you for attending this press conference. My name is Juliana. I'm an organizer with the PSL and a militant journalist with liberationnews.org. The reason that we're here today is because the people living on this property are being forced out. Many of them have no place to go, some of them have no source of income, and some of them are suffering from critical health conditions. We first heard about these residents when reading an article published by CBS 8, and we didn't know much about the situation. But we did know a few things. There is a homelessness and affordable housing crisis happening right now in this country, in California, and in San Diego. In the past year, rents in Escondido and the surrounding region have skyrocketed 20%. At the same time, we're experiencing record inflation and soaring gas prices. For the average person, it is becoming harder and harder to survive. Jobs in San Diego do not pay enough to live on. If you can find a full-time minimum wage job, you will only make a fraction of what is needed to survive. And we also know that services like quality physical and mental health care are not available in this country. If you're unlucky enough to be low income and sick or disabled, there's very little you can do to get by. Knowing all of that, we decided to come and see what was going on. And what we found were good people who were doing the best with what they have. People who care for one another, who took each other in at a time when there was nowhere else to go. The narrative about them being a nuisance or a blight on this neighborhood is dehumanizing and lacks compassion that is sorely needed in this country. So we decided that we're going to be holding this press conference so that they can tell their stories. For those watching, we hope that you will be driven to help and stand up, because everyone deserves to be able to afford a safe home. I think we can all agree that in the richest country in the world, no one deserves to be living on the street. I would like to welcome our first speaker, Steve, who was the first person we met. He's been here for 2.5 years. Please help me welcome Steve.
Almost 3 years ago, I found myself in dire straits. If it hadn't have been for three spare, Mike Cluey and Karen Cash, who opened their home to me, I don't know what would happen. But as Channel 8 said, I was a squatter. That is simply not true. And the pandemic came, and I found myself making these trailers. People were losing their homes, and now I provided homes for them. I don't know about the legalities here, but I do know that if there hadn't been an illegal sale between HUD and their subsidiaries, and if they didn't take the chance for the three spare to claim this property, which was her right, that we could have bought this property 9 months ago when they took it from her. I just ask you for the sake of everybody that's about to be homeless, to reach out and give them a hand up, not a handout. I'm not looking for a handout. Right now I need a hand up. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. The next person that I want to welcome is another resident. Her name is Teresa. She's been living on the property for 1.5 years. Please welcome Teresa.
I'm going to read kind of my story, otherwise this will turn into like a NA speaker meeting, and we don't want that. So this journey started for me in 2019 when I went through a hard breakup. No car, no job, no family, money, food, nothing. I had nothing. So I heard about a job in the bakery, and I asked to speak to whoever was hiring, and lo and behold, I got hired on the spot. So after 20 years of not working, I got a job. I started saving and found a trailer of my own to buy, and because of my newly found independence, I was stoked but worried about being a single female alone in a trailer parked along the side of the road, you know? So Then, after I got my trailer and moved in, a family member and a so-called friend stole it. And so I was back on the streets again, but continued to go to work, buying a new T-shirt every day so I could go to work clean. You know, it was really rough. And I had a friend named Steve, you know, and he had a safe place to park his RV, and it was on private property. So I thought, you know, well, there's my opportunity, you know. And during that time, my tags expired also, so I was on the streets. My trailer, you know, it would have been either ticketed or towed, and it was really, you know, really traumatic for me and scary. So I just went and I went onto their property, and if it wasn't for the understanding and kindness of Terry Bear letting me stay there, I don't know what would have happened to me, you know? And that was a year and a half ago. Since then, I was able to buy a truck, pay my registration, pay rent. I got my driver's license after not having it for 5 years. I've made a lot of progress due to being able to stay here. You know, the truck turned out to be a lemon, so I had transportation problems, which ultimately, unfortunately, had given me problems with getting to work on time every day like that. And code enforcement started to come, and it was just chaos. So eventually I lost my job due to this, I believe, you know. So I tried to think of ways, you know, to try to help, you know, the property here. So we decided to have a yard sale. And the day of the yard sale, that's when CBS News 8 aired their story on the Escondido squatters. So all this, as you know, as more CBS 8 News stories being aired about, you know, how do we empty our septic tanks and some alleged outhouse that we had out there, you know, and how dangerous it is to live in this area because of us. Well, you know, I just want to say I hope all the neighbors, you know, that have participated in this are happy that they cleaned up the neighborhood, because all they did was add to the homeless crisis here in North County, as far as I'm concerned. Now, as we continue to live with this pandemic, even the mayor, you know, said social distancing for people who have shelter, it means, you know, 6 feet apart. But for homeless people, it means no shelter beds, because we have to, you know, maintain social distancing. So we're screwed up. So anyway, I just wanted to thank the neighbors for helping, because they didn't really do anything except add to the problem. That's all.
Thank you, Teresa. The next person I'd like to invite to speak is Karen. She's been at the property for 2.5 years. Please welcome Karen.
Hi. Yeah, I've been here 2.5 years. I can't believe this is happening. The neighbors are unbelievable. We don't make noise. We keep to ourselves. And I don't understand any of this. My boyfriend is ill from stress, and he has a heart problem. Terry was taken away to a hospital, and she's coming home tonight. We're going to go get her. She didn't have no right to have them take her away from us. I started off in Oceanside. I had a camper. He was moving to Florida, so I had to move my camper. I came here. And that's when code enforcement started. Complained about me being in the camper. They complained about my son being in a shed. Well, my son moved to my camper. I moved to the house. I ended up taking care of Terry, making the meals, cleaning. I don't work. It's just been real hard. All these people here are friends, they're family. And to see them go is really hard. And I hate the neighbors. I really do. They're nosy, don't have nothing else better to do. Like they say, no, people climb over the fence. Well, why is she up in the middle of the night watching people climb our fence? Nobody climbed our fence. I want the best for all of us. And to have you guys here that, you know, put us on the news and let people know. Being homeless doesn't mean we have a disease. We're homeless because we're human beings. It's too expensive. And it's hard. It's real hard. Especially when you don't have your real family around. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody who told their story today. The last person that I would like to invite is one of our organizers, a lifetime Escondido resident. Zach, you want to come up to the stage? the podium.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for having me here today. My name is Zach Bowersock. I've lived in Escondido, like Juliana said, my whole life. When I'm not working as an electrician, which is what I do for a living, I'm organizing with these people so that, you know, housing, healthcare, jobs, and education could be guaranteed rights for all. You know, with the state of, you know, the economy and how people are being treated right now, if there ever was a time to stand with people, it's right now. With your fellow worker, with your fellow man, it's right now. Every single day, people just like the ones standing right behind you, just like me, are evicted from their home. Perfectly good residences are forcefully cleared out because the resident did not meet the criteria as defined by our economic system for deserving to live in shelter. And we, especially those in San Diego, see the consequences of that economic philosophy every single day. While houses lie empty, streets are lined with tents. I witness this every single day when I drive to work and back home. But it doesn't have to be this way. The mainstream media and politicians may give you the impression that we've tried everything, but we haven't. Politicians say that they have what it takes to stop it. You see this all the time, campaign after campaign after campaign, but they're not willing to do what really is required. And it's really simple. We keep people in their home. Eviction must no longer be an option, no longer in the lexicon of anyone who actually claims to serve the people. Local, state, and federal governments have all the resources necessary. We must recognize that the only humane option is a prioritized universal housing option. People already on the brink of eviction must have their rents and mortgages canceled. The bank should return the favor that the people granted them in 2008. We bailed out the banks, so it's time to bail out the people. In no way, shape, or form can any of us claim to value human life while allowing our economic and political institutions to get away with these crimes against humanity. Nobody should have to live on the streets. We must stand together as workers, or those who want to work, or those who can't work, and say enough is enough. This doesn't need to happen. We must recognize that the source of these problems is an economic system based on profit over people. Everything capitalism has offered to the homeless crisis hasn't worked, so let's try to say something else. Now, of course, I say it needs to be socialism, an economic system that is based on people's needs. But short of that, in the interest of a more humane policy, it just, at the very least, needs to be an absolute rejection of any policy, position, or attitude that supports throwing our fellow people, fellow worker, what have you, out onto the streets. Enough is enough. Nobody deserves this, but more importantly, nobody gets better from this. In the United States, there are 29 empty houses per homeless person. In California alone, that ratio is 9-to-1. Houses are for living in, not for speculation. But if you must speculate or gamble with something, let it not be the things we need to live. For addicts, the chance of successful treatment goes up dramatically with stable housing. Homelessness is an incredibly hard hole to take yourself out of. In this country, it is very, very expensive to be poor. If we want to end poverty and homelessness, we need to make it impossible. And we can start this fight by defending the good people standing with me right here. And those just like them. Cancel the rents and mortgages, fight for universal housing with no strings attached. Nobody deserves to live in the street in the richest country on the planet, something we hear all the time. No exceptions. In essence, by uniting and organizing and fighting like we are today, we can build that future. Thank you.
Thank you, Zach. That concludes our press conference for today. I don't know, did we want to take questions or? Does anybody have any questions? Okay. Are there any questions from the press? No? Okay, well then feel free to come up to us and speak to us individually. We're really grateful for those who came to let these people tell their stories, because as we know, the media has distorted their stories, so it's time for them to have a platform. This is not the last time you're gonna see us, so we hope that you'll join the fight to end homelessness in San Diego, in the United States, and in the world. Woo.